Asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma mrutangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
This third lecture is on Hinduism, and I shall be focusing on some of the important aspects of the Hindu religion, and also we shall be studying about some sacred text, basic philosophy, some prominent Hindu authors who have given commentaries on the Mahavakyas, or the most sacred and great sayings within Hinduism. Now, going into the history of Hinduism is not an easy task, because there have been many theories advanced forward, beginning with the theories that came up from Max Muller's era to Arthur MacDonald, and much later Richard Desmond, for example, in the last century, and many others like R.C. Zena in Oxford. Previous to him was Sir Radhakrishnan. There are many other scholars who have come out with various theories with regard to the origin of Hinduism. The fact is that Hinduism, the very word Hindu, comes from the Indus Valley region, and perhaps it's attributed to the kind of religious beliefs and systems that were followed by those people in the Indus Valley region. Now, it's also true that the Aryan invasion later on might have picked up elements from the indigenous religion and mixed it up with whatever belief system that they have brought in. However, when you look into the early origins of Hinduism, you find there are two streams. A stream of philosophical discussions engaging in metaphysical discourses. On the other side, a number of rituals and worship systems that had been either combined together or have been existing as two distinct streams as well. Some theorists today, speaking of the Indus Valley civilization, would say the Dravidians or some aboriginal people were the ones who were native to the region and whose religious systems eventually were taken over by the invaders, and probably they mixed both together, blended them, and the system might have evolved and developed out of it. Today, when we speak of Hinduism, we often speak of the sacred books, which is often known as the Shruti literature. Shruti meaning what is heard, and therefore there is a sense of revelation and a sense of inspiration that is presumed or attributed to these texts. The sacred text, for instance, consists of the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, the Sama Veda, and the Atharva Veda, the four Vedas. And at the end of the Vedas are added the Upanishads. There are 63 Upanishads, but most of them speak about the 13 principal Upanishads, and I shall be referring to them quickly. Because these Upanishadic books were added to the end of the Vedas, they are also known as Veda Anta. Veda Anta means end of the Veda. Therefore, the books that came at the end of the Vedas are called the Vedantas, the Vedantic literature. Now, I'll, for example, take a little hymn from the Vedantas. Asattoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Yodir Gamaya, Nirtyo Mirtam Gamaya. Meaning, from the unreal, from the untruth, lead me to the truth. From death, lead me to immortality. From darkness, lead me to light. This prayer is known as the peace prayer, the peace mantra, often sung in as the very first prayer in the morning. The Hindus begin their prayer at sunrise. So looking at the sunrise, this prayer is recited, often after a ritual bath. And as the sun is rising, that becomes the context of prayer, because the sunrise, the dawn, is the meeting of darkness and light, which is seen by the devotee as the meeting point of God and the devotee, and also the meeting point of sin and grace, the meeting point of good and evil. Darkness is often attributed to that aspect of evil or sin, and therefore, looking at the rising sun to a new day, one elevates one's spirit and therefore sings these verses. And that's a time is also a kind of merge of life and death, because as it begins to dawn as the sun rises, often there is a greater sign of life also, you see, in the birds, the animals. Particularly in the Indian countryside and villages, one would find everything is quiet at night. As the sun rises, the farmers will go to the farm, other workers will go to work. There is a lot of movement and sign of life, and therefore the context of the sunrise also becomes a meeting between life and death. And this prayer is sung, and the end of the prayer, it's concluded with Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Let there be peace, let there be peace, let there be peace. The first Shanti is for the devotee himself or herself, that the one who is praying should have peace within oneself. The second one is that one may have peace with the rest of creation. And the third one is the vertical dimension of establishing peace with the Supreme Reality. Now, in the notes I have given you, I have started the notes, in fact, with this prayer, and I would like you to go into it. And following this prayer, I have said about the general overview of Hinduism as a major religion within the Indian subcontinent. There are more than 800,000 followers, and if one goes into the Indian subcontinent, one would not miss to see on any roadside, on any village, on any countryside or township, or even the major cities, huge architecture of Hindu temples, and in the villages and so on, small shrines or even bigger temple, like for example the great oldest Hindu temple in Tanjore is known as the Great Temple, and you can go into the internet and website and look for the great temples of India, and you would find most of them are in the southern part. But you should also remember that there is no specific founder to Hinduism. It's not a religion like Buddhism or Christianity, where a historical person to whom the religious foundation is attributed, that he is the founder of this religion, or even to Islam, for example, Muhammad as the founder of the Islamic stream of faith, and same thing with Jesus Christ and St. Paul later on, the people who were sort of founders and co-founders of the Christian religion. In the same way, Buddhism is attributed to Lord Buddha. Such an attribution is not possible within Hinduism, because there is an intermingling and merging of ethical system, belief systems, cultural aspects and cultural structures, all put together to manifest or bring out this one religion. But there are different sects within Hinduism. When I say sect, it's, for instance, Vaishnavism is a major sect within Hinduism. Shaivism is another major sect. Most of South India is Shaivite. And for example, if you look at Toronto, you have around 300,000 Saivites living in Toronto. And predominantly they are Tamil, they speak the Tamil language. And there are also a few Saivites who are Canarese or speak the Kannada language. Some of them speak Telugu language and so on. They worship Lord Shiva as the supreme Godhead. There are numerous gods and goddesses depending on the Puranic, Agamic and other literary traditions from which they draw their devotions. There is the big book called Ramayana. So Rama is one of the avatars or one of the incarnations, appearances of God himself. And therefore that kind of attributions are also found in, and Ramayana belongs in fact to the Vaishnava tradition. And therefore we shall look into some of these traditions and see how each tradition has been over a period of so many centuries, shaping up and molding the cultural expressions, the manner of faith expressions, worship, rituals, and other aspects of religious life and spirituality among the Hindus, both in North and in South India.
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतङ्गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः